Educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work podcast, where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
Thank you very much for tuning in today. We're going to have fun on this show, I feel like. Our guest today is a dynamic professional with experience in both digital marketing and operations. Serves as the VP of operations at FMO Media. She thrives on coaching her team, cultivating client relationships, devising successful strategies, and developing effective systems. A lot of us could use all these things, and so make sure that you stay on so you can hear how to contact her, so she could probably maybe coach you, through these things. She is a firm believer in empowering others, and her goal is to foster stronger leaders, cohesive teams, and well-rounded individuals. She is a proud alumni of Loyola University in Maryland. I'm sorry, I got a little tongue-tied. And her master's from Villanova University. For those of you who know, I'm in the Philadelphia area, so we could probably share some cheesesteak stories or pretzel stories or water ice stories, so like that. But I thank y'all very much for listening today. And I'm glad to introduce to you Rebecca. Rebecca, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Maurice, thank you so much for having me. And Loyola, Villanova, those are two words that are definitely tongue twisters. I have gotten it wrong myself, but really great schools. I enjoy my time. And yeah, cheesesteak stories. Oh man, I love a good cheesesteak. I'm in Atlanta now, but boy, do I miss a Philly cheesesteak.
and so did you have a favorite place that you like to go to get one?
I actually love going to Pat's.
Okay.
And that was one of my favorite spots. I know that there are some people that have been like, oh, stay away from that area. And, it's really touristy, but I just love the experience. I thought Pat's was a great place and the cheesesteak was so, so good. Where's your favorite spot?
So right now, my favorite spot is Leo's, is out in Delaware County. And so, but it's a toss up between Leo's and Larry's, which is up in Winfield area, so you're right. Geno's, Pat's, those are the touristy, spots, especially if you're from Philly, but because they receive a lot of marketing, you see a lot of, you hear a lot of stories about them. More people are talking about them. So they will get more publicity, and that's what bring people in. And because it is down there in South Philly, not too far from Penn's Landing, the casinos. So yes, it's going to have some. They have some marketing behind them, if you will.
They do, yeah. They have a draw. There's some contention between the both of them, especially for Gina.
Yes.
We won't go into that.
Right.
Sometimes that press is good.
Right.
But yeah, so true. But Delco, I know the Wynwood area. I've spent a lot of time in the greater Philadelphia area, so all good spots, definitely. If I were back in the area, I would take you up on those recs. So I hope anyone in the Delco area or visiting is listening, because wherever you can find a good cheesesteak, definitely enjoy. They are it's just a Philly staple. So
and so let me ask you this: have you found any place close enough down there in Atlanta?
No, you really can't compare. I lived in Maryland for a time, and the crab cake is really big in Maryland.
Yes.
And I just can't bring myself to eat a crab cake unless I'm in Maryland, because it just doesn't, it's not big and, just overwhelming crabby. And they got the Old Bay. Same thing with the Philly cheesesteak. Not everybody does it right. The bread isn't great.
Right.
It's not the right cheese. I like mushrooms on mine. How do you take your cheesesteak?
I can't have mushrooms, unfortunately. I like mushrooms, and I can't have it because I have gout. So it's going to blow me up, health-wise.
Oh, yeah.
But I will do mayonnaise. I will do fried onions, sweet peppers, hot peppers. I'll dress it up a little bit.
Oh, so good. You're making me hungry. I will say there's really good food here in Atlanta, though. We've got a really great food scene, our own kind of food scene. But I'll let you in on a little secret. I actually love Waffle House down
Really?
here. Oh, yeah. Waffle House is just like, it's an Atlanta classic.
Right.
You can always get like a good breakfast. If you like your bacon, eggs, nice slice of cinnamon bread toast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually a Waffle House gal.
Really, I haven't been to Waffle House. As many times I've been down south, I haven't been to a Waffle House yet.
You have to, next time you're down south, you gotta have a Waffle House.
Well, let me ask you this question though, because we're talking about marketing, we're talking
Yeah.
about, word of mouth or things like that, and Waffle House, just like Geno's, might have had some challenges, right? You get what I mean? So we want to talk about chaos. So how do you work yourself out of those positions? Marketing yourself, trying to create that word of mouth, that your reviews are a little bit better. How can you create that? A better marketing space for yourself.
I love that question. I think it's an ongoing challenge for everybody as a business owner, or if you're in customer service, to make sure that you're thinking about the experience for your customers, your clients, right? And I would say if we were to try and pinpoint it just briefly, quickly, a lot of those challenges come down to how are you creating a space that's welcoming and inclusive to everybody and not polarizing, especially a restaurant, right? You want to make sure that you're welcoming people through the doors and they can feel safe and secure and they can enjoy the meal that they're having. And a lot of the contention around that, right? And no business is ever going to get it perfect, but you're going to have a lot easier time if you think about what's the experience that I want my customers to have. And that's where marketing can play a huge role in the business and establishing that, right? I think a lot of us maybe separate what is marketing and what is the general function of the business, but marketing actually can help support your overall customer client experience. And talking about chaos, you might fall into chaos for any sort of reason. Maybe it's a misstep. Maybe it's a huge misstep. Maybe it's not having a structure in place. And that's one of the things that I love to promote and talk about and discuss with anyone, whether it's with a team that I'm helping build and manage and coach at FMO Media, whether it's in my own work that I've done in the past or what I'm working on myself personally. I always think about what's the structure that I am establishing so that people can know expectations and they can have a standard for quality. And if you're sort of just kind of doing things willy-nilly at the, by the seat of your pants, and you don't really give yourself a time frame or organize yourself, then it's really hard for you to find that grounding and find that foundation to do more because you're constantly spinning your wheels. You're constantly trying to backtrack or create a system that doesn't exist yet. And I kind of came to that. I want to say it was sort of after grad school. I was in my mid-20s and I was trying to find an organizational system. And I was trying to find the perfect organizational system, something that I could stick to. And I kept trying different things, whether it was in my personal life, I was trying to organize something, or in my work life. And because I kept trying different things and I didn't commit to anything, I wasn't able to make any kind of progress. And so I really had this sort of revelation. And it's something that my mom always said, you can't create in chaos, I think to help make sure we cleaned our rooms
right.
regular basis. But it kind of dawned on me that I can't create in chaos. I have to get myself straight first, whether it's as small as making my bed in the morning, making sure that my desk is clean and tidy, all the way through to, how am I organizing my digital files? How am I keeping my papers neat? Do I have a process or a system for myself when it comes to marketing workflow? And so once I kind of hit on that and realized I have to stick to something and commit to something consistently, that's where the progress happens. And it's progress over perfection, right?
So you touched on a few different things. One of the things I kind of want to go back on, because of chaos and we're trying to backtrack, sometimes it's hard for us to get back to what we think our brand is because we lose ourselves within our brand, our vision, our mission, our value. Sometimes we lose it because we're trying to catch up. We're trying to fix it, whatever it is. So how can we get back to the basics, if you will, because that's what's going to help us fix most stuff. How do we get back to basics?
I think sometimes we can lose our focus, our way, because we aren't reminding ourselves or our team about the mission, vision, and the values,
Hmm.
and maybe we're not embodying it. So as a leader, I think it's important to go back to those and review and say, you know, am I fulfilling the mission?
Hmm.
Are the priorities we have right now heading us in the direction towards that goal, that vision that we set? And
Hmm.
how am I demonstrating those values? Because it's got to come from you first, right? I think the other part of it is you have to listen. If you do
Mm.
have a huge PR nightmare challenge ahead of you, take a moment and listen to what those negative reviews are. Read the good reviews and
Hmm.
make sure that you're taking it all in so that you can pinpoint what the actual problem challenge is.
Hmm.
And then I don't think that we can ever operate solely in a vacuum. So who are your trusted people on your team that you can
Mm.
then use and pull on as a resource, as a sounding board to give feedback? Because those people are going to be the ones that can help you move your company and the progress forward and getting back to where you initially started from. I would also say maybe sometimes there's change that happens, and change can be really challenging, conflicting for a lot of us, but
Hmm.
the change is the constant, right?
Hmm.
So if that's the case, do you need to change? Where do you need to change? Maybe you need to pivot the vision.
Hmm.
Maybe the mission is stale and old, and you've kind of accomplished the goals you set for yourself. So it's time to challenge yourself a little bit further. And really, as a leader, only you can start and initiate that process and start the digging.
Hmm.
But it takes work and it takes a lot of self reflection and awareness. And sometimes that's where you need to open it up to other people that you can trust for the feedback is going to be well intentioned and constructive at the same time,
Hmm.
that you can hear those words. And that takes a lot of courage, I
Hmm.
think, but so important, right?
Hmm. So, Rebecca, like you've given me way too much to think about, right? Because, and I'm saying that because let's when we sit down and think about our business plan, we're
Mhm.
writing out our mission and all that type of stuff. We think that we need to stick with that for the next 20, 25 years, not understanding that it needs to grow as we're growing. That's number one. And that's a whole nother conversation unto itself. But
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
listening to you talk about this feedback loop that a lot of us don't want to hear because ego,
Hmm.
we think we have the best product out there, and no one should ever talk bad about us, at all. And because we're already hard on ourselves, it could make us, fall deeper into some type of emotional states. I don't want to call it depression because it doesn't have to be something that deep, right? But sometimes we
Yeah.
don't like to hear criticism,
Mhm.
So how can we encourage ourselves to get out of that space of, hey, I don't need to hear this, versus I need to hear it and continue to grow from it?
It's hard, right? I think it's the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And that fixed mindset can be one where you feel like I don't need to change anything about me, or we
Mm-hmm.
don't need to change in general, versus the growth mindset of, you know what, there's always room for improvement. I know that I don't know everything. So, what can I do to instill greater knowledge in myself, help
Mm-hmm.
my team grow, empower them to learn more and to be able to do more too? And it does take that self-awareness, and it is really hard to hear criticism. I spent over a decade in the theater professionally and as an actor. It is hard to not personalize some of that. And what
Mm-hmm.
you said about, not falling into depression, it's definitely possible for
Mm-hmm.
anyone to fall into that and sort of be trapped in it. But if you maybe shift your mindset a little bit to thinking about how do we improve, it's
Mm-hmm.
not solely on you. And then I talk about empowering people because I think people want to be responsible, they want to contribute. I spent a lot of my time as an entrepreneur as well as doing solopreneur work. I know what
Mm-hmm.
it's like to have that hustle, but an entrepreneur is someone on your team who is able to think like an entrepreneur. They have that entrepreneurial spirit.
Mm-hmm.
They want to contribute to your company, your vision, the growth, and do so in a way that's impactful and really take ownership. So being able to identify who are those people on your team that can help you
Mm-hmm.
shift your mindset, your thinking to, it's not just me that needs to improve, but all of us here can grow together. And then, as easy as it sounds, shifting it from that negative to a positive, there's an opportunity, right? We can go so much further than we are at now. It might feel like, for some, could feel like you're at rock bottom,
Yes.
right? But then there's only one way to go, which is up. So I see that as a benefit, right? Because at least you can progress further. But that's where you kind of have to roll up your sleeves and dive a little bit deeper. And I think you're right. It can have a negative effect. And that's why having a really strong team, building that culture, and not just focusing on that in the bad times, but the good times too, because it's really easy for us to get comfortable and hit that high note where we're feeling like we're on top of everything. And then boom, you can lead to a crash before you even realize it if you're not constantly learning and seeking to improve along the way.
So I think some of the things that you're talking about are characteristics of a great leader, becoming a great leader. Because one of the things you have when you're pod match is great leaders, bad bosses, right? Know, and I think a lot of times because we hear, and I just say my corporate America time, where my supervisors may say, hey, be like me. In order for you to move up, be like me, but you're not the greatest person to mimic, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's what you're kind of touching on, is becoming a great leader and not trying to emulate, to duplicate, or whatever it is, someone else and their bad habits and things like that.
Yeah, I've had the benefit of having really great leaders, and I've had the equally the benefit of having bosses who gave me the example of what not to do in certain situations. And I know I've made mistakes along the way too, but my focus for myself and with anyone that I'm training and have the privilege of coaching is the idea that we're not bosses, we're leaders. And as a leader, I feel like it's so important. I'm really passionate about this. We need to be servant leaders. So we're not standing above anybody and pointing and saying, you go do this and you go do that. There's an element where we can guide people, but it's coming along beside and next to and supporting your team to make sure that they have the resources, the empowerment, the decision making. They need to do their job, and not just do their job, but do their job well. So how are you setting your team up for success? And you and I probably have been in similar situations where people are promoted and they step into that supervisor role, but they really aren't coached and trained. And so we need to have compassion for the quote unquote bad bosses that are out there, because they probably didn't have the time, the ramp up time, the coaching time. They might have done their job very well from a technical or specialist point of view, but they're not really suited to leadership. And so many people can fall into that, and they're just doing the best they can, or they don't have that self-awareness. And maybe they are in that fixed mindset where they don't realize they need to improve. And I believe that anyone can be a leader. You don't have to wait for a title. You don't have to wait for a promotion. You can be a leader now, and you can make the space around you, whether it's work or personal space, you can make that so much better, and how you're helping to lead others. Because I think it really comes down to how you're helping other people grow and move forward. And when they grow, then everybody gets to grow and move forward.
So when we talk about leaders, right, we're talking about leaders, and you're mentioning you can be a leader within wherever you are. But a lot of times we think the leader is the one that's always up front, reading a report or all those type of things. So what would you say is a true leader? Because the leader doesn't always have to speak. It could be by whatever. So I'll let you answer that question. What do you think would be some characteristics or some idea of leadership in wherever a person may be?
Yeah, so I love that you mentioned that, because you don't have to be the one giving instructions all the time, right? Nor should you really, as a leader, be just giving instructions. But I think it comes down to listening and asking questions and getting insight to help find a solution to the challenge or the problem before you. And a lot of that starts with listening. Now, there could be situations where you do have to give a little bit more guidance or a little bit of instruction, right? That goes without saying. But how much are you listening to the people around you? You might be working on a project within your company, and you might not even be the project manager for that project. But if there's a challenge and you can speak up, first listen to what's going on, but have you offered any additional insight, or have you asked questions to help the rest of the team get to the solution they need? Or on the other side of things, have you offered more value to the team that you're working on, or to the role or the task at hand, so that you can show everybody that you're willing to take that ownership, you're willing to support for, we call it the greater good, right? But for the growth, the greater good with the greater growth, whatever that might be. But how are you stepping in to help propel the rest of the team forward? Because it's not about individual achievement. It's about the group success overall.
Wow. Rebecca, I appreciate, the information you provided today. Listen, let me ask a question, one last question. Where can they reach out to you to get this coaching, to get this, these light bulb moments? Because you provide a lot of light bulb moments, a lot of things that we don't always consider, so where can they reach out to you and hear these little tidbits?
Well, I would love people to connect with me on LinkedIn. I love connecting, one-to-one individually. Right now I'm working on a new website, so it's not updated yet, but I just love using social media to actually build those connections, what it was intended for. And so please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I have a couple of special projects that are happening too, so that's where I'll be sharing some news as well. If anyone needs marketing services, FMO Media, which stands for Find Me Online, so you can find FMO online, fmomedia.com. But I'd love to have you reach out. The team would love to be able to help with your marketing. But if anyone wants some additional coaching, I do a couple of mentorships with the Women in Digital Marketing and Design Network's wonderful mentor program. So anyone out there who wants some additional mentorship, I highly encourage you to check them out. But I'm also happy to chat with people directly too, because I'm really passionate about building up strong leaders and helping people navigate the road of their career, because I know it can feel overwhelming and daunting. So I'm happy to offer my advice and listen to anybody's challenges that they might be having too.
Wow, Rebecca, I thank you very much for coming on the show. I appreciate it. Of course, this information that you provided will be in the show notes. So if you're driving out there, if you're, in a place where you can't get to it, of course, the link will be in the description. So, but Rebecca, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Maurice. My pleasure.
You're welcome. Now, I got to ask you the world famous question, my would you rather question, right?
Okay, I'm ready.
You're ready. So, would you rather choose 3 doors or a fork in the road?
Okay. I'm going to say a fork in the road.
Okay.
Because you can see enough of the path in front of you, but I don't know if it's maybe just my aversion to horror films and having younger siblings, but the idea of opening a door and not knowing if anything is going to pop out and scare you is a little too much for me. So I'm going to take the fork in the road, because it gives a little bit more responsibility to me to see what lies ahead and to be able to navigate the road, the path that I have taken. So that's my choice.
Because you said something about horror movies, I don't like them at all. I don't watch them. I don't pretend to watch. I don't pretend to like them at all. That's been since I was a kid. I don't like Psycho, whatever the one with the birds. Like, I don't, Carol Ann. Like, I don't like any of them things.
You know what? I will make an exception for Hitchcock, because a lot of it is mind thriller to me.
Yes.
But yeah, even Psycho, like, you have to be in the right mindset. Yeah, I don't watch those at night before I'm going to bed. No. That's the extent of my horror watching. So look at the road it is.
Listen, let me tell you, if I have to watch it or somebody has it on, open up the doors, the windows, the blinds, the curtains, everything. It has to be 12 noon, like, it can't be nothing.
Yeah.
And I have to make sure I'm not sleepy, so I don't take a nap. Like, I got to be wide awake. I don't do horror. I don't do horror at all. But Rebecca, thank you very much for coming on the show and sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And continue to listen to That Will Never Work podcast, and I will talk to you a little later.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at Chisholm Group LLC and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work, or will it?